In this lesson, we will be simplifying square roots and cube roots. Do you still remember the key questions? Remember to find answers for these. What is a square root? Now this looks funny. It looks like roots in the shape of a squarey shape here at the top, rather a cube shape. So what is a root? Square root. If we look at Snoot's self-portrait, you know that to calculate the area of that square, we'll say 2 centimeters times 2 centimeters, and that is 4 square centimeters. So we calculated the area. If we want the square root, we want the square root of 4 square centimeters. So what we want is just one side of that square. So that's what a square root is, a side length of a square. So we ask ourselves, what did we multiply? What number did we multiply by itself to get 4 square centimeters? And the answer of that is a square root. Be careful. Here we've got 25 minus 16. If we square root each number separately, so if we say 5 minus 4 is 1, is that right? Let's first subtract 16 from 25. Then we get 9, and the square root of 9 is 3. The two answers are not the same, so which one is correct? You're absolutely correct, not the left one. Because just like squaring and cubing, we cannot square and cube different terms if there are more than one term. We can square root one term. And this is not one term, it's 2 terms. So first simplify it, and then you can square root that term. Example 1. Is this correct? Absolutely. Yes, it is one term because multiplication is within a term. So now we can simplify or square root each number separately. Because even if you multiply the two numbers and then square root it, you will get 20. Because what times what gives me 400? 20. And that is why 20 is the square root. So do you see that you can use both ways when it's multiplication? But if it's subtraction, we cannot do it separately. We have to first subtract and then square root 9. So what number times itself gives me 9? 3. One term, 2 terms. So 2 terms must first become 1 term before we can square root. What can we do here? There are 2 terms. We cannot root them separately. But the 2 terms are alike. So we should combine them. And that is 169a squared. So now if we square root this number, it's 1 term. We can square root the number and the variable. So what is the square root of 169? 13. And what is the square root of a squared? A, because a times a is a squared. Right, first think of the answer. If you say the answer is 10y to the power of 10, you are wrong. Why? Because the square root of 100 is 10. But the square root of y to the power of 100 is y to the power of 50. Let me prove that. 100 is 10 times 10, so we take one side. Y to the power of 50 is y to the power of 100 is y to the power of 50 times y to the power of 50. So we take the y to the power of 50. So there's a shortcut in getting the square root of a power. We can just half the exponent because it's the half the amount of y's. But for the number, we don't half the number. We ask ourselves what times what. Let's try this one. If you think this is 9y to the power of 9, you're wrong. If you think it's 3y to the power of 3, you're wrong. So what is it? Very good. The cube root of 27 is 3 because what times what gives me 27? 3. The cube root of y to the power of 27 is 9. The easy way to get it is to divide the 27 into 3 equal groups. And that gives us 9. Great question. Thank you. What will happen if we cube root a negative number? Let's explore. What does this mean? This means it's negative 3y to the power of 9 times negative 3y to the power of 9 times negative y to the power of 9. So this length times breadth times height of a cube. So we can factorize it like this. If we want one of the sides of this cube, it will be just negative 3y to the power of 9. So the cube root of a negative number stays negative, and you just ask yourself, what times what is 27? What times what? And the shortcut for the exponent is to divide that 27 to 3 equal groups of y to the power of 9. Let us summarize. To find the square root of a number, we ask ourselves, which number was multiplied by itself? To find the cube root of a number, we ask ourselves, which number was multiplied by itself 3 times? First, combine the like terms within a square root before you find the square root or the cube root of the expression. Happy learning!